take you behind the scenes of the racing circuit. Take one. Single car teams fight to survive.
I certainly hope the single car team effort doesn't just vanish.
Cut. Kart teams head to Toronto. They're still talking about Cleveland.
If people are doing things wrong, that is definitely the way to go, I think, is the 10-second penalties and stuff.
Take two. A team overcomes obstacles together.
It couldn't be easy when you've got a new owner, you don't have a sponsor, your owner's sick, you don't know if he's going to pull through.
Take three. The 74 team struggles to stay together.
Whether they believe in the driver is a distinct question.
Roll tape. RPM Tonight is next.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Kernan. Thanks for tuning in to watch RPM Tonight. The Kart FedEx Championship Series sets up camp in Canada this weekend for the Molson Indy Toronto. Marlo Klain says it's supposed to be a happy homecoming for Paul Tracy. But after last week's incident in Cleveland, Tracy's anything but happy.
Paul Tracy returns to his hometown under scrutiny from Kart and his fellow drivers. Tracy said following Sunday's race at Cleveland, he wanted to talk to Kart president Andrew Craig about this incident with Al Unser Jr. that resulted in a 10-second penalty during the race. Tracy has not talked to Craig, but his owner Barry Green has talked to Chief Steward Wally Dallenbach.
I can see how Wally Dallenbach could make a call like that. I still believe there are two guys involved, and I still believe that Al Jr. knows what everyone else is going to do coming out of the pit lane, coming out of their pit box in front of them.
Al and I followed each other in the motorhomes and talked on the CB for an hour or so. So there's no problem there. And, you know, I guess just one of those racing things that happens in the heat of the moment. Both of us have been struggling this year, and both were competitive and, I guess, going for it and got into it with each other.
Drivers have argued in the past fines are not effective, since money may or may not come out of the driver's pocket. Most drivers are in favor of Kart's in-race penalty that does more harm to the driver's results than their pocketbook.
Yeah, I mean, if people are doing things wrong, that is definitely the way to go, I think, is the 10-second penalties and stuff. But as long as it's not a sort of knee-jerk reaction, as long as they've looked at the TV over and over, the replays, thought about what they're doing before they do it, then that'll be okay.
They're trying to make us think now. Every time that something happens, you're going to get a penalty, be it a fine or time. So, I mean, it's tough to say which one's the best, but I mean, really, as long as they just keep being nice and consistent with what they're doing, you know, either way is fine.
We want to decide it on the track. That's important to be able to do that. You don't walk away from most other sports events and read the next day in the paper that something's changed about the outcome. And that's one of the things that we really work hard to try and avoid.
If Kart is looking for a clean, contact-free race to clear the air of controversy, they've probably come to the wrong place. The tight streets of Toronto produced plenty of contact in the past, including a first-lap incident last year involving pole sitter Dario Franchitti. In Toronto, I'm Marlo Klain.
Thanks, Marlo. And don't forget, Sunday afternoon over on ABC Sports, you can check out all of the action of this year's Molson Indy Toronto. Coverage gets underway at 3 Eastern, but be sure and check your local listings. Back in the mid-'80s, the independent teams, those not backed by major sponsorship, began dying out in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Now it appears not even major backing can help a team keep up with the pack, especially when that team is all by itself going up against the multi-car efforts.
I am one of the last of a vanishing breed. Boy, I hope not.
I think it is an uphill battle being an owner driver of the same car operation.
A couple of years ago, it wasn't even a factor. It was something that you know, multi-car teams were pretty neat deals for the people that had them.
So far, 1998 has been the year of the multi-car effort. 5, 3, and 2-car teams have dominated week in and week out. Yet 23 single-car teams take the track each weekend, trying to slay the giants. But the teams can't get strong enough to slay the beast if they can't work out.
Testing, you know, we're only allowed 7 tests per team. Well, if you have 2 teams, that's 14 tests, and you can multiply from there.
It's hard to explain how important testing really is. It's the only way you can make the car go faster. You go to these racetracks to qualify and get ready to race, the schedule is so jam-packed that you don't really have time to throw things at the car that are unknowns. And when you're testing, you know, I'd say about 75% of things you try don't work. You don't have that luxury when you're going to qualify. So these tests are very, very important.
Give us just another day before the track actually goes in and goes through inspection to come in and do our testing. This would alleviate that we could even pull 2 cars off the day before that the track actually opens, do our testing then. We're already there, our expenses are covered, and I think then it would equal out that any team that wanted to do that could do it.
A lack of testing hurts come race day. Those 23 single-car teams have produced only 3 wins, 15 top 5s, and only 47 top 10s. Money is another reason to go the multi-car team route, because 2 cars can be cheaper than 1.
You can't justify going out and buying $1 million piece of equipment that some of these teams are buying these days to build your engines with, because you're splitting that up. You got $5 million worth of sponsorship if you're lucky. You take $1 million right off for some machine, you know, that doesn't make much sense. But when you have 5 teams and you can say $200,000 off each team for this great machine that's going to help all the teams, I mean, it's simple. You can see right away how it works and why it works.
So you take the extra money that you're saving with office help, some of your people, your engineers, your engine people, you take that money and you can apply that to R&D, research and development, for both those teams. There's 3 of those teams. And again, just do a little multiplying, and that budget can really multiply fast.
Just the fact that when you go hire someone that makes 6 figures, well, if you can divide that into 2, or much less 3, that's just to your advantage. That's just, you know, financial. It gives you more dollars to spend in other areas.
Single-car teams now have to choose to either remain independent or join the crowd and start multiple-car efforts.
I certainly hope the single-car team effort doesn't just vanish, isn't squeezed out of this sport, because, you know, that would be, it'd make it awful hard for someone that wanted to be a team owner to get into Winston Cup.
I see myself staying a single-car team because I truly feel, and I really do, that NASCAR sees the problem. I don't believe that they want a handful of car owners owning 75% of their field, or 90%. If it keeps going, it'll get worse and worse and worse. It won't get better.
I got to believe they can win. I think it's definitely an uphill struggle, and it's getting tougher. But, hey, if it's easy, everybody be doing it.
Just how tough is it? The single-car teams make up about half of the field, but only 5 of those teams sit in the top 15 in points. Bobby Labonte drives for the top single-car team. He sits 6th in the drivers' point standings. The NHRA starts its 3-event West Coast swing this weekend with the Mile High Nationals. And the next 3 events have always played a major role in determining the series champions.
It's like we're in Daytona, and we're drafting around Daytona, and it's Forrest, it's Etchells, it's Cruz, it's myself. And I was up front leading for a while, you know, and I cut back a little bit, and I kind of dropped back in the draft. And we're just kind of drafting each other, waiting for that last 5 laps, and then we're all going to pull out, and we're going to make a run for it.
We've got everything covered this weekend for the Mile High Nationals right here on ESPN2. Catch qualifying on Saturday. Final round coverage comes your way on Sunday. Coming up on RPM tonight, it's been an emotional struggle to the top for Davey Hamilton's team, and we find out exactly why the 74 team has struggled this season on the Busch Series.
Hey boy, what's going on?
You by Wagner. Not just a better way to paint, a way RPM 2Night is brought to you by Wagner. Not just a better way to paint, a way to paint better.
Randy LaJoie heads to California with a little momentum on his side this weekend after what has been a very disappointing season. This time last year, he already had 4 wins and had finished in the top 5 half the time. Bill Weber will be going out to cover the Busch Series this weekend out at the California Speedway. He joins us now. And Bill, you look at those numbers, and it's not what you expect from that team.
Baffling, isn't it? Better than a good murder mystery, I'd say, John. For the last 2 seasons, the FINA team has been a weekly threat to win the race and a yearly threat to win the championship. But in 1998, it's been a whole different story. The players are the same, but somebody changed the script. A handful of laps led, a bunch of DNFs, and just 1 win. Management has won 3 titles. The driver has won 2. Maybe they need to add Perry Mason to the crew so he could solve the mystery. What's wrong with a 74 team?
It summarized in a short version, it would be a lack of focus and a tiredness on everybody's part.
We knew as soon as Randy got in that 50 car that we were going to have problems. It neglected us a little bit here. I mean, he may not want to hear that, but it did. And I'm glad to see he's out of it and back, and we can go racing again.
I was maybe trying to get the Cup car to drive more like the Busch car, or vice versa. But a good race car is a good race car. I wore out 2 sets of driving gloves this year, so I think I've been holding up my end of the deal.
I won't say that the desire is not there, but possibly maintaining the acuteness, the edge, is not quite what it was.
A driver's got to be determined. And if he ain't determined, if he gets in this mood where he's satisfied and thinks about other things, and then he becomes stale.
What has gotten us to where we've been and won 2 championships is good for a baseline, but at the banquets for the last 2 years, everybody says, we're coming after you. We're going to beat you. And they've outworked us, you know, so it's hard to blame me, you know, for those guys outworking everybody else.
LaJoie is outstanding as a driver, yet outspoken as a critic. His mass appeal has often allowed him to use the mass media to send a message.
Can't pass when you ain't got the power these other guys have, and we've been fighting that for the last 2 years, and I thought we had it fixed, but we had the good motor in the truck. A lot of good that's doing there.
Well, that's something I've always said. You ought to come in my office and say it, you know, not out there. Everybody else, there ain't no other drivers that do it that way.
When you don't run good, you have to make excuses, and I'm not good at making excuses. I tell the truth.
Some Thursday or Friday mornings when you pick up USA Today and read an article quote where the whole team was thrown under a bus, so they got a copy and they're sitting in the truck waiting for qualifying. Yeah, that doesn't put the best foot forward.
How have your guys reacted and responded to that?
They just pretty well ignore it. You got to consider the source.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Randy's Randy, you know. Like I said, one time he says we were behind a couple years. Well, we ain't behind. We got the best of everything. But there is a point where it'll stop.
And do you determine that line?
Good.
Well, maybe I should reword things, because sometimes my wording is not necessarily what it needs to be. But I'm gaining on it, and hey, it's just one of those deals where it's aggravating because I know we can be better.
So what's your relationship then with Randy?
You know, we have our words and everything, but like I said, we grew up together, and, you know, I love him and I'll do anything to make him win. You know, it's a two-way street. You both got to play the game.
Great champions have often feuded within. LaJoie and Bird are old friends, former rivals, and maybe mirror images.
I think they're too much alike, like the champions that they are. Hard-headed, indignant, not open to hearing other people's ideas.
Well, I don't know if we're too much alike. I guess we're both hot-headed once in a while, but I've learned over the years sometimes you better be quiet. You can't burn bridges.
We're probably both block-headed and bull-headed, and, you know, I'll say one thing and he'll take it the wrong way and then give up, you know, and that's where the communication is so big. You know, if I could tell him how the car is feeling, most of the time he could fix it if he wants to.
Can you understand then if I say that there's a perception out there that this is not a smooth running organization and that there's a lot of, or there appears to be, infighting?
I don't know if people get that. Maybe driver and owner and crew chief, but
those are the leaders.
Yeah. Well, you know, you get that in any race team, you know. Few of them run smooth as they look.
Now, that's only a fraction of what these three principals are saying. It goes deeper than racing. Some of it's personal stuff that you just don't discuss in public. But as hard as it may be to believe, everyone involved is determined to defend their title and their reputation. To do that, the FINA team will have to defeat their toughest opponent, themselves. John?
But, Bill, they won Saturday night. I mean, doesn't that count for anything?
It counts for something, John, but I think that win gets an asterisk. It was a short-track race with competition cautions and a late race yellow. And Randy LaJoie sat right here on his soapbox Wednesday night and said pit stops have been one of the team's biggest problems. Now we go to California, a wide-open track where fuel mileage could be a big, big factor. You'll probably pass more guys on pit road than you will on the racetrack. Keep an eye on how this team does on pit road for the next few races. All three of these gentlemen have made their points. Now they have to make up 290 points.
And it looks like somebody might either get fired or fired up after all this.
That's two options.
Bill, thanks a lot and have a good time.
Okay, John.
Out in Fontana. Coming up on RPM tonight, the emotional return to racing of Bob Nienhouse. 6 years ago, Gallus Racing won the Indianapolis 500. 2 years ago, it nearly did it again. But when Rick Gallus wanted to go IRL racing full-time, he decided to hand the ownership reins over to businessman Bob Nienhouse. Things looked great for the newly formed Nienhouse Racing for this year, but then things went very wrong.
One of IndyCar racing's biggest names of the last 2 decades, Rick Gallus has sold his team to Nienhouse Motorsports. The team's IRL car will be driven by last year's Indy Racing League points runner-up Davey Hamilton. Hamilton began testing with the new team this weekend in Phoenix.
Went to Phoenix the next week, and second day I felt the flu coming on and flew home, and the flu got worse and worse. And day after Christmas, I went into the hospital, and it was diagnosed as pneumonia, and I was unconscious until February.
It was a tough situation here. We just signed on with a new boss, and Rick Gallus also signed on with a new team owner, and him being general manager. And our leader that we don't know very well gets sick, and you know, it left us in a funny position.
It was hard being in Albuquerque when he was in Chicago. We were just trying to carry on business as usual, but obviously personal feelings get into it, and we were real worried about he and his family.
The team limped into Orlando in January, not sure about its future. Nienhouse had promised a sponsor, but that search was now on hold. The team started the Disney race 19th. It finished a gutsy 3rd.
So that one was for Bob. We were all, like I said, he was just coming out of it at that point, and it was just kind of like little icing on the cake for everybody.
And I was so proud when I came to. One of the first things they told me was, we got the podium in Orlando.
While the team went on to Phoenix, Nienhouse began rehabilitation. He had lost a good bit of his body weight and the ability to walk. His motivation was simple, to walk into Gasoline Alley in May.
It was my goal all through rehab, was I wanted to be able to get to Indy. And a month beforehand, I was still in bed, and we didn't think I'd be able to make it. But fortunately, it started to improve, and I made it to Indy.
It was good for them to actually believe that there was a guy named Bob Nienhouse, and I wasn't making it up, and they loved to see him. So it was real gratifying to have him there.
It was a great thrill to stand there on the starting grid after what the team had done. It was a dream come true for me and for others.
Nienhouse brought inspiration and funding to the team. A high-profile sponsor, Reebok, made its IRL debut, and Hamilton pulled off a fourth-place finish.
Well, great job by Davey. He's been close to the front all day, from Boise, Idaho, a big modified sprint car type guy, and it's fun to see Davey at the front of this pack.
Nienhouse Motorsports now has no handicaps left. The owner is fully recovered. The sponsorship is top flight. The driver runs up front. So Bob Nienhouse's new goal is a simple one: win.
He knows how to go about making this team right, getting the right people in the right positions, and you know, doing what it takes to get the sponsors and make them happy and continue on with us to where we could do more testing and just learn more about each other.
It couldn't be easy when you've got a new owner, you don't have a sponsor, your owner's sick, you don't know if he's going to pull it through, and you're out there working your heart out because you've got a career and your own character's on the line, and they did it. And you know, now things are going really well for us, and I said we're rewarded, but let's just remember where we came from, because if we want to continue to do well, we've got to have that same focus.
Hamilton and his Nienhouse Motorsports team heads to Dover this weekend, only 38 points out of first place in the Pep Boys Indy Racing League standings. In 5 races, he's posted 3 top 5 finishes, along with another finish in the top 10. Davies led 2 of the 5 races for a total of 6 laps. When RPM Tonight continues, Tom Higgins remembers the man who saved the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Today in NASCAR history is brought to you by Coca-Cola Classic, the official soft drink of NASCAR fans.
59 drivers in the history of NASCAR have only one win. Today marks one man's triumphant day. On July 16, 1958, Shorty Rollins won for the first and only time in 43 starts. He finished 4th in points in 58 with 12 top 5s and 29 starts, but he never saw success again to that magnitude. In 14 more starts, he had no top 5s. But 40 years ago today, his name joined an elite list, a list that today boasts only 150 names, the list of NASCAR racewinners.
As a newspaper writer in Charlotte, North Carolina, Tom Higgins saw and wrote about many of the events we're looking back at today in NASCAR history. Today, he takes a look at one of the sport's pioneers in this week's Rearview Mirror.
Richard Howard was a very big man in stature. He had imagination and generosity to match. In and those qualities helped him play an important role in NASCAR's development. Howard, one of the very best, most popular promoters in Winston Cup history, died recently at age 73 at his home in Denver, North Carolina. He had been ill a long time. Except for Howard, Charlotte Motor Speedway might not have become a showplace of motorsports. Atlanta Motor Speedway might not have survived either. He rescued both from deep debt. The Charlotte track went bankrupt not long after its opening in 1960. By 1963, it owed $1 million and was on the auction block. Enter Howard, who owned several relatively small, thriving businesses in Carolina Piedmont.
Richard came along and ran the track for 12 years during a period of time when super speedway racing was still in its embryonic stages.
In 1966, he had the Charlotte track clear of its financial obligations. With a showman's flair that was to mark his career in racing, Richard burned the notes. He similarly helped save the Atlanta track from creditors. Howard boosted interest at Charlotte by paying big purses. He created a program called the Big Change Special, in which fans chose a tough luck driver to receive a ride in a hot car in the World 600. Among those elected was Wendell Scott. In 1971, attendance fell at all tracks because there was no competitive Chevrolet. Howard came to the rescue, hiring Junior Johnson to fill the potent Chevy for charging Charlie Klotzbach.
He did a lot of neat promotions, and he's definitely meant a lot to this speedway and a lot to NASCAR.
Howard ran Charlotte Motor Speedway until 1976, when founder Booton Smith bought enough stock to regain control. Another track president once responded to a luckless driver's request for help in getting out of town, some money, by throwing the guy a road map. If Richard Howard had tossed a broke driver a road map, some greenbacks would have been rolled up in it. He was some promoter, he was some man.
Check out Thursday's Holiday Inn Express Fast Fact. The first Charlotte Speedway was a 3/4 mile dirt track. We'll be right back. We've got all the action covered this weekend as the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and Busch Series visits the California Speedway. The trucks come your way Saturday afternoon. The Busch cars race on Sunday. Watch all the action over on ESPN. On Friday's show, the NHRA from Denver, kart from Toronto, and the trucks and Busch cars, of course, from Fontana. We'll see you at 7 Eastern. Good night, everybody.